What would an all-out war mean for the rest of the world?
Well, when we say all out war, it could occur in stages. So first of all, the IDF sending troops across the border into southern Lebanon, trying to deal with Hezbollah, perhaps ending up with something like the July 2006 war that went for 34 days. Didn't destroy Hezbollah. In fact, Hezbollah is much stronger today than it was then. But it did a lot of damage to Hezbollah. In a sense, no one won from that. If Iran gets dragged in, Iran so far hasn't been a participant, but if it does participate, then we could end up in a regional war. We have Shia militia aligned with Iran and Hezbollah in Iraq and Syria. They could join in. All it takes is somebody to make a mistake, for a missile to fall short, to hit a single civilian target, and then this escalates very quickly.
What other options are there for Israel at the moment? The country's been repeatedly targeted by Hezbollah, and it's right now fighting the war in Gaza as well.
Yeah, look, Israel's in a very bad place, and some would argue, many critics in and outside Israel would argue that things could have been and should have been done better. Hamas has not destroyed in Gaza, even though it's badly damaged, but the Gaza Strip, of course, is very heavily damaged and at a very high cost. Israel needs to stop the rockets from Hezbollah coming across the border to the north of Israel. Hezbollah claims that if there was a ceasefire in Gaza, it would stop. We don't know if that's true until it's tested, but that would be the first thing you'd want to try and do. Using military force to repel Hezbollah, we just don't know where the tipping points are. What we do know is that Hezbollah has an arsenal of as much as 150,000 missiles and rockets. Most of them short range and not very accurate, but some of them long range and very accurate. That missile that was intercepted over Tel Aviv is the sort of thing that is feared. Coming in ones and twos, they can probably be stopped. But if they came in swarms, it may be very much harder. So that's the dilemma. Prime Minister Netanyahu has said he wants his people back in the north of Israel, 60,000 people displaced for 11, almost 12 months now. That's an understandable desire, but it's not clear what the plan is for the path to get there.
You spoke about a diplomatic solution. We did hear from President Joe Biden speaking at the General Assembly, saying that a full-scale war is not in anyone's interest and a diplomatic solution is still possible and remains the only path to lasting security. We have the US election coming up. What's your assessment of how that will impact the tensions in the Middle East?
Well, the danger is that President Biden is in a sort of lame duck period at the moment. He won't be, he's not up for re-election. Of course, Kamala Harris is replacing him. So until the election on November 4th, he doesn't have any real power. And of course, he'll still be president up until January 20, when there's the handover. Netanyahu probably figures that Donald Trump, if he were re-elected, would be more friendly, but no one can be sure of that. He probably fears that Kamala Harris is going to hold him to a tougher line than Biden has, even though Harris is certainly a defender and friend of Israel and will stand up for Israel's defense. That means that there's the risk of something being rushed in the next few months. We don't know why the Mossad pager and walkie-talkie attack went ahead when it did last week. Possibly there was this concern that the plan had been detected and therefore it was sort of a use it or lose it moment. But it was a sort of really elaborate espionage operation, which presumably was intended to be used shortly ahead of a ground invasion of Lebanon. That's not yet happening. So there's a lot of uncertainty, but the sort of general signs point to the fact that Netanyahu is pushing to try and do something in this lame duck period ahead of November 4th, when Biden apparently doesn't have much leverage over him. Having said that, the US aircraft carrier, the strike group that was based off Lebanon for 8 months, moved 2 weeks ago. There's no US aircraft carrier group now in the region. It would take some weeks to get people, forces in position. And America's gone on record saying we are not providing intelligence support to the IDF during this operation in Lebanon. So that's, fairly significant signaling that the US doesn't want to back any adventurous operations in Lebanon.
Global Islamic Politics Chair at Deakin University, Professor Greg Barton, thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour.
Thank you, Gabriella.